Hello, I'm Nathan P. Butler, author of A Saga on Home Video and host from the Star Wars Home Video Library here on YouTube, and this is Star Wars Home Video Year by Year. This time we take a look at 2009. And this essentially is a year that will continue a trend that we saw back in 2008, which is Clone Wars releases, which are coming through Warner Home Video. We've sort of followed along here as most Star Wars releases have primarily come through some version of 20th Century Fox, right? We had Magnetic Video Corporation, then gets kind of folded into 20th Century Fox Video, then we had CBS Fox Video, then Fox Video, then 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment for most of these recent releases, and that will continue for some releases. But Clone Wars was being put out through Cartoon Network, which meant that the way the corporate structure works, they were coming out on home video through Warner Home Video, at least for the first 5 seasons that did air on Cartoon Network in the US. So most of these next few years we're going to see will have a lot of Clone Wars releases and a smattering of other stuff. As for context here, this was the year that saw the end of Season 1 of the Clone Wars, the beginning of Season 2. This also included a special series of Clone Wars episodes, not the entirety of Season 1, but selected episodes as Clone Wars Decoded, or The Clone Wars Decoded, with special facts popping up on the screen. That will never hit home video. This is also the year of the launch of another long novel series, Star Wars Fate of the Jedi. It's the year that Star Wars in Concert begins with a performance called A Musical Journey, which should sound familiar because of that DVD title back in 2005. And it's the year that the Star Wars Essential Atlas was released. Why do I mention it? I'm very proud of the fact that I actually got a chance to work on the Essential Atlas with Jason Fry and Dan Wallace to do some of those dates on the battle maps and to set the in-universe calendar date for the first time on the digital calendar for Return of the Jedi. So a solid year in Star Wars outside of home video. Let's see what home video had in store for us. Well, last year we did see the Clone Wars film get released on home video. I would note here that one interesting foreign release of that, before we move into the series itself, is the Warner Blue Line version of the Clone Wars film. This is coming out of France, but kind of neat in that it does have that cover art that's more similar to the steelbooks than any of the regular releases. Now, with any new TV series release that has the potential to be particularly lucrative on home video, as with pretty much anything Star Wars at this point, there's always that sort of tug-of-war sort of question. We're being pulled in one direction to say, you know what, let's wait for an awesome season set, and that's how we'll release the series. And the other side is, no, let's do it piecemeal throughout so we can get more money along the way, bit by bit. And then, of course, there's a combined approach, which is what was taken here, which is let's do some piecemeal and then season sets so we can get more money overall. And yes, piecemeal then season sets makes sense. We will see some instances here of season sets then piecemeal, which don't make a whole heck of a lot of sense, but that's a whole other thing, not inside the United States. So for the US, prior to the Season 1 complete season release, we got 2, basically, DVD releases here. This is the Clone Wars A Galaxy Divided. This is basically just a DVD set that includes, and I'm showing you the disc here on purpose, it includes the 3 Malevolence episodes and Ambush. So essentially the first 4 episodes aired of Season 1. But what's interesting about this is that this has several store exclusives, and they are particularly difficult to find these days. At least a couple of them are. So this is sort of your standard version, and yes, it does have a slipcover. There was also a version at Walmart. The Walmart version with this giant Walmart sticker on it is indicative of the fact that it has an extra episode, Downfall of a Droid, included on the disc with the other 4. And you'll notice here that the label is different for the Walmart version. Again, regular is Grievous, Rex, and Yoda. Walmart is Grievous, a clone trooper there whose name I don't recall off the top of my head, and R2-D2. But because the interior cases for these are exactly the same, the only way you're going to be able to tell if it's missing the slipcover is to look at the disc label, or if it does have the slipcover, hopefully whoever is selling it didn't remove the sticker so you can easily tell that it's the Walmart version. But that one, as an exclusive, is relatively easy to come by for variations of A Galaxy Divided. Harder to come by, especially intact, is this one. This one comes from Best Buy, as you'll see with this sticker down here as the indicator. And the key difference here is that while it does only include 4 episodes, so it's the same disc and disc label as in the standard version, it includes a little Yoda patch on the inside. And then finally, the one that is incredibly rare and extremely difficult to find these days is this one. This is an exclusive version, as you can see there at the bottom, from Toys R Us. And in this case, again, same disc as Best Buy and the regular version, so same label and everything. But inside, you have a little fold-out poster that makes this the exclusive version. That is the only exclusive content, just the poster itself. Now, that was released back in March of 2009. By September, they put out another one. So it includes Rookies and the Ryloth trilogy called Clone Commandos. But the thing about this is that, well, it is just a single disc with those 4 episodes on it. There's no slipcover, and there's no variants for this one. My, how the mighty have fallen when it comes to product line exclusives. But if that was a downgrade to go from the way they approached the Galaxy Divided to Clone Commandos, the way they approached the season set was an upgrade in many respects. Those earlier releases were all the way it aired on television, which was widescreen, but it was 16:9 widescreen. So basically what you would see as a full screen of coverage on a widescreen television, an HD television. Now, those are DVDs. They are SD, but it's that aspect ratio. But the episodes were actually made in more of a theatrical aspect ratio for widescreen, which means it's a little bit wider and therefore a little bit shorter on your screen to give you a wider expanse of viewing, sort of a more theatrical experience for something that they build a lot of times as almost like making little Star Wars mini movies. When the time came for a season set, they decided to release that with the theatrical widescreen aspect ratio, not just 16:9. And several episodes got upgrades because there was content cut for television airing to fit the runtime and content standards that made it into the home video release. The result is both a Blu-ray and a DVD set in 2009 in the fancier packaging here. Okay. You have a built-in booklet here. It is bound in, however, for your Blu-ray set, and then the same thing here for your DVD set. Again, in 2009, we will see other variations of this later, but in 2009, they're much fancier than they will be later. But instead of just being 2.35:1, as opposed to the 1.77:1 or 16:9 aspect ratio, these had those special cuts. As I mentioned, it's 7 individual episodes here, and yes, I wrote them down just to make sure that I didn't misname them. We have Rising Malevolence, Shadow of Malevolence, Rookies, Lair of Grievous, Storm over Ryloth, Innocence of Ryloth, and Liberty on Ryloth. If you're wondering what the specific differences are, I go into painstaking detail in a Saga on Home Video 2nd edition in a little sidebar called Changes for Better and or Worse. Anytime this type of thing happens, you can find the Clone Wars in Volume 3, which is for the non-live action theatrical film stuff. But basically, all those episodes got some form of sort of director's cut with alternate scenes, added scenes, and stuff like that to really make for a better viewing experience overall, along with the aspect ratio. And I would note that of those episodes, every single one of them had already appeared on either a Galaxy Divided or Clone Commandos, except Lair of Grievous. Lair of Grievous is the only one that in the United States does not get a regular aired version release on home video. Only a director's cut here in the season set. So as we often do, let's take a quick trip to some other markets to see some comparisons. If we thought our little Digibook version was fancy, Japan had us beat with their fancy schmancy version of the Clone Wars Series 1. I believe there's a DVD version of this as well. This is the Blu-ray version of it. It's a nice large tin on the inside. And inside the tin, I always forget that it opens the opposite direction, is a set of little like mini bust type things here for the individual characters. Underneath that, you have a nice poster. Underneath that, you have a set of art cards. Then you have the actual release itself. Slightly different coloration, so it's kind of hard to actually see the complete first season part here. And it's DVD size despite it being Blu-ray on the inside. Little piece of paper inside there that almost fell out. And again, you got your discs there. In this case, you got the discs on arms. And then there's your bound-in book, but it's actually bound in to the side rather than being bound in to the spine. I don't have a ton of those Japanese ones, but I will show you the first 2 seasons here because those are the ones that I do have. In the UK, you had a chance to sort of preview the series and think about whether you maybe want to pick up more of it. with the Clone Wars Downfall of a Droid. This is an HMV exclusive little preview episode, single episode DVD. And then in the UK, they did get Season 1 as well. Now, what's interesting to me is this is the version that I have that is inside a box set from the following year that we'll see when we look at 2010. But you notice that at least in this version, the booklet is separate, and it's a regular case with the Blu-ray discs in it that then goes into a slipcover that resembles the US packaging. I'm honestly not sure if that was their initial way of getting it, or if that's just a special thing for that packaging in 2010. But suffice to say, this is an international thing. Different regions getting their own releases of the first season of Clone Wars. Over in Australia, they actually got a jump on things, kind of like the US did, but in a more logical way. In the US, we got 4 episodes on one DVD, 4 episodes on another, and that was it. It was kind of stuff that was towards the beginning of the season, mostly for one of them, the end of the series, again, mostly for the other, the end of the season. But in Australia, they actually got 4 DVD volumes, 2 in June, 2 in September, that actually collected the entire first season before there was ever an actual season set. You notice their Season 1, Volume 1 packaging is very much like what we saw over here for A Galaxy Divided. And it's actually the same episodes, Ambush and the Malevolence episodes, but it does then include Rookies as well. Then you have a Volume 2 here, which includes Downfall of a Droid. This does include Lair of Grievous. So in Australia, it actually did get a non-director's cut release. Then we have Volume 3, and finally Volume 4. Still keeping with Clone Wars, but not for season sets, we find ourselves with some new releases that also in 2009 introduce us to a new format for Star Wars, which is the mini DVD. This is Star Wars lightsaber battles, and yes, it is what's referred to as a mini DVD. Significantly smaller than a DVD, actually even smaller than a PVD, which we saw with those Video Now players. PVD is kind of in the middle between the two. But that can be found packaged in with lightsaber toys. The bonus lightsaber action DVDs were done, but we're not done with discs inside toys quite yet. So here's one example. This is Obi-Wan here. And then, as I said, I always grab Vader for these as well. So there's the Vader version of this thing. But you'll notice, for the ones that actually have the mini DVD inside, it will say includes Lightsaber Battles DVD on the packaging either here or here, so you know what you're getting. And it's basically just a clip show of different lightsaber battles presented as sort of bouts between characters. Nothing particularly fancy or interesting, but cool to see a different format, mini DVD, enter the fray, so to speak. The major sanctioned Star Wars parodies continue this year with releases as well. We have Robot Chicken Episode 2 still just on DVD, and I don't have all the ones from places like the UK to show you, but at least for the second one I do have a UK version, so you can see how there is a slight difference between the two. More prominent this year were new releases for the Family Guy Star Wars trilogy. For the original Family Guy Blue Harvest, we saw a release on something that really is about the only example of this for Star Wars at all in the US, though we have seen an example of it for the Clone Wars from the UK, and that is a UMD release. Family Guy Blue Harvest actually got a UMD Universal Media Disc for PlayStation Portable Game Players release in the United States. Nothing else really for Star Wars did over here. They also got a reissue of their DVD/digital copy package in packaging that really sort of highlights and emphasizes the whole idea of the digital copy and how it's going to work. For their second special, the one parodying The Empire Strikes Back, Something 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 Dark Side, we see the first Blu-ray release in this series. And bear in mind, you'll see this a lot of times without this red band on it. This is just a sticker. Lots of folks took off the sticker because it's kind of marring the artwork. I want you to see it here with the actual sticker on it. I do have one that doesn't have it on there. And then, of course, alongside Blu-ray, you still had a DVD copy. That nice slipcover on these. Same art on the inside. And in keeping with the tradition of episodes 1 and 2, in 2002, putting out a ridiculous package that was only 2 films out of a trilogy, we have 2 specials out of a trilogy getting a pack here. Kind of like their version of the Saga DVD pack, we get the Family Guy 2-pack. At least we're not calling it a Saga or something. All that's inside is a DVD copy of the 2. For what it's worth of those, this has no digital copies. This has no digital copy. This does have a digital copy. But again, despite the code, the digital copy is on a DVD disc inside. And of course, as mentioned, this has a digital copy, and obviously because they never did, the UMD copy does not. If you wanted to go a little fancy, though, to round us out here for 2009, you could get something, something, something Dark Side in a fancier package. Is it a boxed set? Is it a fancy thing that looks a lot like what we saw with maybe Blue Harvest, where it looks kind of like one of the DVD sets of the original trilogy? No. It does mirror something we saw a lot of for Star Wars, though, and that is a lunchbox. The something, something, something Dark Side lunchbox. Inside, you find the Blu-ray/digital copy version of the special, a little thermos lunch kit guide, and a t-shirt. And of course, because it's a t-shirt, I had to get an extra one. This is what the t-shirt looks like. So a somewhat busy 2009. We have the first season of the Clone Wars coming and bringing a lot with it. Not a whole lot outside of it, though, as we've seen. We'll see this pattern continue with a lot more Clone Wars stuff. So join us next time as we check out 2010. Or 2010? That's gonna drive me nuts.